Let's imagine for a moment that it's October 11th, 2025. After 2 brutal years of war, a ceasefire has finally silenced the bombs over Gaza. But what it revealed wasn't one single path to peace. Instead, it exposed 2 radically different realities, 2 separate worlds living side by side. Let's dive into that story. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in this breakdown. We're going to investigate these 2 worlds, looking at things from the Israeli side of the wall and from inside Gaza, thanks to the incredible work of our Palestinian colleagues on the ground. So first, let's turn to the world being built just a few kilometers from Gaza. It's a world centered on a dream, the dream of a group of Israeli pioneers who are just waiting for the moment they can settle on the very land that's just been ravaged by war. In a place called Shavet Darom, 7 families are living in these simple, prefabricated homes. They see themselves as the vanguard. Take Hadar Pentahan's family. They left a big house to cram themselves into this tiny 30-square-meter home, all in anticipation of a move into Gaza. They believe it could happen any day now. Hadar's conviction is just absolute. She's 8 months pregnant and her hospital bag is packed, ready for a delivery in Gaza. She says she has no fear, she trusts the Israeli soldiers to protect them, and believes that when the local Arabs see Jews arriving, they'll simply leave. And we're not just talking about a few isolated families here. They're backed by the powerful Nashallah movement, whose leader, Daniel Avais, is completely unambiguous. Their stated plan is to colonize the entire Gaza Strip, declaring that the chapter of Gazans in Gaza is over. Okay, now let's flip to the other world and see how that dream contrasts so sharply with the immediate, desperate reality for Palestinians inside Gaza. For them, the future isn't about moving into a new home. It's about surviving the loss of their old one. 6. That number represents how many times Jibril Ashrami and his family have been displaced in just 2 years. Every time the fighting shifted, they had to pack up and flee, again and again. Gibril's story is devastating. The war took his parents, his wife, and his brother. Now he's the sole provider for his children and his late brother's family. They live under a tent that, after being put up and taken down over 100 times, is barely holding together. He says, "We are dying a slow death." And Jibril's story is just one among hundreds of thousands. As this chart shows, an estimated 80% of Gaza has been destroyed. Hundreds of thousands are living in tents, and pretty much every single family has lost someone. The scale of the loss is almost impossible to wrap your head around. Facing this, Palestinian journalist Hamy Abu Jamous saw staying in his home as an act of defiance, a way to resist being pushed out. But eventually, the threat became too much. He filmed a final, heartbreaking farewell to his family's home, preserving the memories and heirlooms they had to leave behind. So what about that international peace plan that stopped the bombing? Well, the ceasefire is holding, but the agreement underneath it is fragile, and what it promises versus what it's actually delivering are 2 very different things. Okay, so here's the official 3-phase plan, brokered by the US, Arab nations, and Europe. It starts with hostage and prisoner exchanges and a massive influx of aid. Then comes the demilitarization of Hamas, followed by a temporary international governing body. On paper, it looks like a path forward. But let's just look at that first step. The plan called for 600 trucks of humanitarian aid a day to fight off widespread starvation. The reality on the ground? Only about 200 trucks are actually getting through. So the critical question is, where are the other 400 trucks? And this really gets to the heart of the problem. Rami explains that the trucks that are getting in are mostly carrying private goods. Chocolate, soda, coffee, sold in shops at prices no one can afford. The vast majority, who are 100% dependent on free aid to survive, are getting next to nothing. The physical destruction is one thing, but the war has left deep, invisible scars. Let's explore the psychological legacy of the conflict and the mindsets that have taken hold on both sides of the wall. This is a really surreal scene. During the war, a viewpoint was built on the Israeli side, complete with a giant screen and coin-operated binoculars. Today, families come here to have picnics and gaze out over the ruins of Gaza. Some we spoke to were blunt, saying peace with terrorists who want their land is impossible. Rami argues that this wasn't just a war of bombs. As he defines it here, it was also a psychological war. A war of starvation, instability, and constant displacement, all designed to break a society. He believes the effects, especially on the youth, will take a very, very long time to heal.
And you can see this so painfully clearly in the story of Rami's own son, Walid. When the war started, he was only 2. He's 4 now. Half of his young life has been spent in a war zone.
This might be the most heartbreaking reality of all. Rami confesses that to protect his son from terror and hate, he created an alternate world. In Walid's world, the bombs were fireworks you should clap for. The drones were friendly birds you wave at. It was a father's desperate attempt to preserve his child's innocence in the face of horror.
And so, after exploring these 2 worlds, one of settlement dreams, the other of survival nightmares, we're left with this. It's the ultimate question hanging over this fragile peace. For Walid and for an entire generation of children on both sides, what does the future hold? How do you even begin to grow up after a war like this?